And for our last segment tonight, we're talking about something pretty closely tied to ideas of like American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
And that is an interesting kind of phenomenon where we seem to think about the U.S. in a bubble. And when we think about other countries, you know, when we're not just talking about the U.S.'s activity in other countries, but really learning from other countries, we almost think of it like it's almost like a second thought, right? It's this very kind of strange thing where we make all of the arguments about like a policy first. And it's not just us. It's like, you know, it's us, but it's also people on both sides of the aisle. When we argue for policies, we make all the arguments about their merits first.
Yeah.
And only later do we get to like, oh yeah, and everybody else has figured this out.
Yeah.
You know, like we defend like, no, really, this is possible. And we'll talk for forever about how really it's possible. And then forget that like, yeah, obviously it's possible. Like every other developed nation does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's this weird phenomenon where like, it's so easy for us to just get so wrapped up in our own politics that we forget how much benefit we could have if we just looked a little bit beyond our borders.
Yeah, exactly. And it sometimes feels like they purposely want you to think that we do occupy a different reality. Like that America is in a different reality than the rest of the developed world for a lot of these policy issues. And like sometimes it's such a well-oiled machine that you almost start to doubt yourself. Like you almost start to doubt your own eyes, because when an issue like universal healthcare is not supported by either of the major parties, despite the fact that every single other developed country has some form of universal healthcare system, when the idea of a single payer system is considered radical left within the Democratic Party, and most of the establishment candidates were adamantly against it, when 17 other countries have done it, the fact that the candidates kept talking about, oh, it's economics. You can't do it. It's economics.
Yeah.
You can't pay for it. You're not going to be able to pay for it. When the fact that all 17 of those countries that have a single payer healthcare system pay less per capita than the United States does in healthcare. All right? We spend more per capita than any other country, any other developed country.
Health outcomes.
And have worse health outcomes. All right?
Yeah.
Than other developed countries. All right? We pay more to get less. And we pay more despite the fact that we don't even have universal health care.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cost per capita, not cost per covered person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it's so interesting that the response to that, the response when Bernie makes that argument is often like, oh, well, that's other countries, wouldn't work here.
Yeah.
Not always explicitly, but certainly like it's almost brushed off.
Yeah.
As if, well, there's just something different about the US. It's not what it's not always what's said, but it's often what's implied.
Yeah. There was one moment in one of the debates between Bernie and Biden in which, Bernie did the general spiel of like, every other major country has figured this out. They've guaranteed healthcare as a right. And Joe Biden was like, this is America though.
Yeah.
And Bernie's just like, yeah, well, I don't think we want to pay less. Like, it's like,
is your argument that America's
America.
just worse?
I'm glad that you know that. I'm glad that you understand what country you're in. Are you saying we want to pay less?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like not just healthcare. Like,
yeah, it's not just healthcare.
We've talked about like harm reduction. Multiple other countries, like Portugal's a great example, implement policies specifically to address the deadly outcomes of like drug addiction using harm reduction efforts. And like one state has started a pilot program to try to do that, just New York, while we face an opioid crisis in the United States that's killing record numbers of people. Our solution is like, we'll make a documentary about big pharma, which is like good to notify people, but like we're not implementing like nationwide harm reduction, even though this is a policy that has been working in other countries for like 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah. I mean, look at education.
Mm.
Plenty of other countries have
Wait, they have education?
Yeah, they have education. But like tuition free for your universities.
Yeah.
All right? Tuition free college. Germany has it. Most of the Scandinavian countries have it. And it's been affordable. It's been associated with increases in economic gains because it is an investment. Because if you have a workforce that is more skilled, that is more educated, and they're not held back by poverty, of course you're going to end up having a better economy.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to end up having a better overall structure. When we're talking about having a living wage, you look at the cost of a Big Mac in a country like Australia that last I checked has like a $20 minimum wage versus the cost of a Big Mac in the United States. The argument's always, well, it's going to drive up prices. It's the same. It's like the same damn thing. It's like the same damn price.
Yeah.
All right. It's like Republicans don't think that we have the opportunity to Google this shit and figure it out.
But that's the insidious part. We don't Google it as often as we should. Like, that's the part that is like so weird about this. And it's like one of the most like successful, if this was intentional, most successful gaslighting of all time. Like the fact that the US has been largely convinced that we just don't have that much to learn, which is like crazy in a couple ways. One, we could literally model our policies after the policies of other countries, right? But two, these countries put out study after study of the economic impact. They put out if we just read all of the papers on education and the benefits of tuition-free college, like we might be totally convinced.
Yeah.
But we just have this tendency, it seems, at least I've noticed, to just kind of like, that's like second class evidence. It's like not really as convincing as if we'd done it in the United States.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've had this argument with people and they've just been like, well, this is America, buddy.
Exactly. And okay, so we should be, let's tackle that a little bit. There are important ways in which the US is different from most other countries.
Yeah.
One, we're bigger than most other countries. We got more people, we got a larger economy. Right?
Yeah.
That makes implementing things somewhat more challenging.
Yeah. We also have a lot of open space. I mean, we have a lot of rural parts of our country in which not a lot of people live.
Yeah.
Which, to Michael's point, that can also mean that sometimes it might be more difficult to get certain resources out to some communities versus other communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the same time, we've got the highest bond rating in the world. We can borrow for the cheapest amount of money, and we can borrow more than anyone else. We're in some ways uniquely situated to deliver on some of these priorities, right?
Yeah.
And so like there are pros and cons to each. Things like the size, things like, not only our population size, our economy size, our geographic size, all of those are like very reasonable benefits or challenges to account for when you think about these policies. One way that we're importantly different, which is I think one of our most significant, is our dual federalist system of government, which makes implementing certain policies nationwide much more difficult. Things like the fact that Congress can pass bills to incentivize things like police behavior, but they can't pass laws to say that our police stations, need to take X tactic or do Y tactic. They can make things illegal. They can reduce protections for police when doing violence, but they are somewhat limited in the things that we can do at the national scale. Yeah. And in that way, it's a more complex system for implementing nationwide policies. But we found a lot of success when the federal government implements like model policies that states can adopt, when they incentivize with like federal dollars to implement things. And we have a lot of successful federal programs. And again, all of these things are like moderate complications. They're like barely blips compared to the complexity of implementing these policies that have already been implemented and we could model off of. If we just would learn the lesson instead of believing that in the US, It's just not possible.
Yeah. And also, it boggles my mind that anybody would use the American exceptionalism argument to argue for why better things aren't possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, look, if I were an American exceptionalist, I would want shit to be the best they possibly could be. All right?
Yeah, we want to be like Japan.
Yeah. Like, I would say, wait, United States is the only country that doesn't have universal health care? Not on my fucking watch. This is America.
Yeah.
All right? This is America. We can do that shit. We can't let these, pansy-ass fucking Europeans beat us in this. This is America. Wait,
Jesus.
You mean to tell me that other European countries, that like a bunch of Scandinavian countries, they offer college education to like all of their people? And we don't do that shit? Well, we got to fix that shit. We can't let the fucking Finnish beat us. I'm not going to let the Finnish beat us. All right? Wait. You mean to tell me that Australia has a $21 minimum wage? God damn it. Not on my watch.
$22.
I ain't going to be beaten by those goddamn Aussies. All right? We got to raise our minimum wage. We got to make sure that we're fighting against poverty. Wait a minute. We have the highest childhood poverty rate of any other developed country? No. You cannot tell me that the fucking French are beating us in this. All right? I am not going to be beaten by the fucking French. All right? This is America.
That's the best rant I've ever heard. The fact that you could literally go, America first, we have to institute national, like free universal health care. We need to put in place free college tuition, raise the minimum wage. It was America first. The fact that works makes it just so clear that, that American exceptionalism belief makes us feel like we're exempt from comparison, as opposed to believing that, we actually need to be exceptional.
Yeah. Nationalism is believing that your country is superior regardless of how much it's earned it. Patriotism is loving your country. And true love for your country is wanting your country to be the best.